Well, good evening, everyone. Today is June 29th, 2023. This is a regular session of your Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas full commission meeting to include the planning and zoning portion. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that some commissioners, staff, and the public are attending remotely via Zoom, by phone, or on site. All participants joining by phone should please mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name if you're allowed to speak, as well as your title, so that the public that is observing knows exactly who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and its current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General's office. When you do speak into the microphone, make sure you speak loudly and clearly so that it can be captured for record by our clerk. I will now call this meeting to order. Clerk, roll call, please.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Roll call: Johnson.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Stites. Davis has, and Bynum both have absence memos. Commissioner Burrows.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan. Here. Commissioner Ramirez has an absence memo. Mayor Garner.
Here. Thank you, clerk. Tonight's invocation is going to be given by Annie Erickson of Grandview Park Presbyterian Church, and it'll be immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd ask everybody to stand.
Would you bow your heads with me, please? Almighty God, we welcome your presence here this evening. I ask that you bless Mayor Garner and the commissioners with wisdom, insight, and understanding as they work through tonight's agenda. Where the challenges, disappointments, and scars of life have caused hopes to fade, may each one here have the courage to keep on dreaming and persevering for what this city and county can be, the shining beacon to the nation of what it looks like when people from vastly different cultures, ethnicities, faiths, values, and perspectives work together for the good of the community. May those dreams unite us, and may they be woven into the governance that comes forth from these chambers. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Erickson, for providing that invocation. Clerk, are there any revisions on tonight's agenda?
Sir, there was a change tonight on tonight's regular consent agenda. That was the removal of item number 1 from tonight's agenda surrounding the adoption of a resolution of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds for the Margaritaville and Homefield Outdoor Project. This action will actually require us to hold 2 separate public hearings, which have also been added to tonight's public hearing agenda. That represents all the modifications to tonight's agenda, sir.
Thank you, clerk. With that being said, tonight we have 2 distinct parts to our meeting, the planning and zoning portion, which we'll handle first, followed by our regular commission meeting. I'll ask the clerk to read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
Good evening. We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor CEO Tyrone Garner, Commissioner Melissa Bynum at large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows at large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1. For whatever reason, that's not right. Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2. This is okay. Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson, District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Chuck Stice, District 7, and Commissioner Andrew Davis, District 8. As each petition is called, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before the commission has 3 options. It can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. It can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would also take 8 votes to override. Or it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the planning and zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or others, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all of the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I'll read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there is any request to set aside an item from the consent agenda. This is your time to come to the microphone and provide the agenda item to be set aside if you do not agree with the planning commission's recommendation. If you are joining us virtually, this is your time to raise your hand, and once acknowledged, provide the agenda item to be set aside. If you contacted the UG clerk's office, that item will also be set aside by the UG clerk on your behalf. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted on separately. All items not set aside will be approved by the planning commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening. We recognize the importance of each petition. We would, however, remind you that there are a number of items on the consent agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone, please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. If you're joining us virtually or by phone, we ask that you also mute your phone when not speaking to avoid background noise so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their representation or presentations, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state their views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record if attending in person. This is your time to raise your hand if you're joining us virtually. When your name is called, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are also required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. At this time, does any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on tonight's agenda?
Commissioner Markling.
Thanks, Mayor. I have had contact with opponents of non-consent agenda item SP 2023-020 Shaman James.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you. I too have had the contact from opponents of SP 2023-20.
Thank you, Commissioner Kane.
Same group, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McCarron.
Thank you. Contact from opponents of SP 2023-016 and opponents of SP 2023-020.
Thank you, Commissioner Stites.
Proponents of SP 2023-011.
Thank you. Are there any more disclosures from our commissioners? Or can you go ahead with the consent?
Thank you. I will now read tonight's planning and zoning consent agenda items. Change of zone application COZ 2023-011 Aaron Moore with Call Valley Engineering. Change of zone from R2 Family District to RP5 Plan Apartment District to convert a church into apartments at 2508 North 12th Street and 1208 Cleveland Avenue. Recommended for approval. Special use permit applications SP 2023-022 Curtis Peterson with Polsonelli PC. Special use permit to operate a retail shooting range at 10,000 France Family Drive. Recommended for approval. Indefinite. SP 2023-023 Maribel Santa Ana and A&M Unlimited LLC. Special use permit to operate an event space at 6300 Parallel Parkway. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Master plan amendment applications MPL 2023-006 Aaron Moore with Call Valley Engineering. Master plan amendment from low density residential to high density residential to convert a school into apartments at 2508 North 12th Street and 1208 Cleveland Avenue. Miscellaneous ordinances. 1, an ordinance rezoning property at 4601 Gibbs Road from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural. Recommended for approval. 2, an ordinance rezoning property at 10200 Abilities Way from CP2 Planned General Business District to CP3 Planned Commercial District. Recommended for approval. 3, an ordinance rezoning property at 5910 County Line Road from R1 Single Family District to CP1 Planned Limited Business District. Recommended for approval. 4, an ordinance rezoning property at 1013 Metropolitan Avenue, 1605 South Baltimore Street, and 1003 Ruby Avenue from R1 Single Family District to RPM Planned Mobile Home Park District. Recommended for approval. 5, an ordinance rezoning property at 410 Ann Avenue from R1 Single Family to R2 Family District. Recommended for approval. 6, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 7250 State Avenue to operate a child education center in a building on the campus of KCKCC. Recommended for approval. 7, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 1127 Southwest Boulevard for the continuation of a short-term rental. Recommended for approval. 8, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 1963 North 63rd Drive to install and operate a stealth monopole telecommunications tower and associated ground equipment. Recommended for approval. 9, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 4443 Eaton Street for a short-term rental, recommended for approval. 10, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 1215 Merriam Lane to remove earth and fill from the property, recommended for approval. 11, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 924 North 98th Street for grading to prepare the site for future development, recommended for approval. 12, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 336 South 42nd Street for tire sales and servicing for trucks and semi-trucks, recommended for approval. 13, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 3130 North 122nd Street to operate a YMCA summer day camp, recommended for approval. 14, an ordinance authorizing a home occupation special use permit at 3704 North 99th Street to operate a commercial specialty shop, recommended for approval. 15, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 695 and 701 West Village West Parkway for continuation of live entertainment at Chateau Avalon Hotel, recommended for approval. 16, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit at 13400 Donahue Road to continue to operate a microbrewery, recommended for approval. 17, an ordinance rezoning property at 706 Shawnee Road from R1 Single Family District to RP2 Plan 2 Family District, recommended for approval. And 18, an ordinance rezoning property at 12200 Donahue Road from R1 Residential District to R1 Single Family District. That represents all of the items on tonight's planning and zoning consent agenda, Mayor.
Thank you, Clerk. Do any members of the commission, the county administrator, or the public wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendations of the planning commission. I'll ask if anyone in attendance would like to set aside an item. Okay. Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to set aside?
Seeing none, sir.
We have a motion to approve,
Markley, second.
and we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Stites. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Voted 7-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. Next is our planning and zoning non-consent agenda. Clerk, if you could read the first item in its entirety.
Planning and zoning, non-consent. Item number 1, it is special use permit application SP 2023-016 Tyler Reynolds and Justin Robles. Renewal of a special use permit for a short-term rental at 527 Tenney Avenue, recommended for approval by a vote of 8-1 for 1 year.
Thank you. I'll now ask staff to make some open remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. This is a special use permit renewal for a short-term rental. This would be their first renewal. This is in the central area plan in the Strawberry Hill neighborhood. This case during the Planning Commission hearings was held over 1 month as the applicant did not meet all of the conditions of approval. After meeting all the conditions of approval, the City Planning Commission moved forward with recommendation of approval and a vote to 8-1. Staff agrees with Planning Commission's recommendation with following conditions, including a maximum of 6 people in the building and 2 cars max off street.
Thank you. I'll ask the applicant or representatives to present the application. Please state your name and address for record.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Justine Robles. Tyler Reynolds was not able to make it today. He wasn't able to get off work. However, he is on the phone. If I would be able to put a headphone in, and him help me with questions, if that's okay. We are located at 536 Taromie Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas, 66101. We purchased the property of 527 Tenney Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas, 66101. It was a recently renovated single-family home, and we are requesting for a renewal for a special use permit for a short-term rental.
Did you say you had the petition on the phone, online? Is it available?
I'm sorry.
Oh, she has it on her phone. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Tyler Reynolds is on the phone, if that's okay, just to help me out with questions.
Are you able to patch that in so everyone can hear him?
Yeah, I'll relay.
Oh, no,
Oh.
well, we have to hear from him directly. Is
Okay.
is that possible?
Yeah, sure. One second. Tyler, do you want to say hi? You can say hi or.
He'd need to state his name and
say your
address
name, your address.
and make his,
everyone.
and make his petition known.
Tyler Reynolds, 536 Tromie Avenue, Kansas City, Kansas, 66101.
You make your petition known to the commission? Well, is there anything else he would like to add is the thing?
So let me see. I guess what we wanted to add to our thing, we are a small business. It's only me and Tyler that's a part of, that is a part of this like short-term business. We're not planning to expand, that's it.
Okay,
Yeah. Sorry.
thank you. I will now open the public hearing and ask the clerk if any notifications are received from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of the item.
No comments were received by the clerk, sir.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none,
Is there anyone joining us virtually, clerk, who would like to speak in favor of this item?
seeing none as well.
Clerk, were there any notifications received from the public who wish to express comments in opposition?
No notice were received, sir.
Is there anyone present in the audience who would like to speak in opposition of this item?
Seeing none,
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who would like to speak in opposition of the item?
seeing none as well.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing. Would you like to make some closing comments, petition? Okay.
Sorry, I'm just really nervous.
That's okay. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments? Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hand, have there been any recorded calls for service from the police department at this address in the last year that this permit has been active?
We received no notices of violation or any other complaints.
Okay. I did notice that at the planning commission, there was one letter received in opposition, one letter received in support, both from people who live within a block of this address. And given the fact that there's been no verified calls for service, and given the fact, and I noticed in your materials to your guests that you say that there's a maximum of 8 people allowed in this rental, but I know you know now it's a maximum of 6, correct? With a maximum of 2 cars parked off street behind that house. Excellent. Given the fact that Mr. Reynolds lives but 4 blocks away from this address, and as you do as well, that you would then be available quickly if there were an issue that needed to be addressed. I'm just going to ask that you make sure that the neighbors around this residence know how to get a hold of you, and that you make sure that to the best of your ability, your guests are good neighbors to everyone around them for the entirety of their stay there. With that, I would move to approve as submitted.
Any other further questions from the commission? Seeing none, we have 2 separate votes. I'll entertain a motion. I believe we already have a motion and a second. And just to clarify for item A1, special use permit SP 2023-016. Clerk, is that correct?
Sir, we do have 2 special use permits here. Yes. 016 and 020, though. They are separate addresses.
And if I could clarify, my motion was to approve SP 2023-016 as submitted.
We have a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call Johnson. Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Stites. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Vote of 7-0, that motion carries.
Or can you read item 2 in its entirety?
Yes, SP 2023-020 Shaman Janes, special use permit to operate a short-term rental at 2737 South 53rd Street. Recommended for approval, 6-3 vote for 1 year.
Okay, thank you. Staff can make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. This is a new special use permit for a short-term rental. Again, this is a non-owner occupied property. It's in the citywide comprehensive plan area in the Turner neighborhood. Staff received no letters in support. There was opposition, both provided to staff and at the City Planning Commission earlier this month. There is a notice of violation on this property as it was operating as a short-term rental without an SUP. So it came to us as a part of the zoning enforcement case. Staff does agree with the Planning Commission, recommends approval for 1 year with a maximum of 7 people and 3 cars off street.
Thank you. I'll ask the applicant or representative to present the application request. Yes, come forward. Please state your name and address for record.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Shaman Janes, address 9625 Lamar Avenue, Overland Park, Kansas, 66207. Applying for a special use permit for property address 2737 South 53rd Terrace to operate as a short-term rental. At the pre-planning commission, there were a couple of issues that were brought up that I was required to fix. One neighbor had brought up that basketballs were bouncing over the fence. So I was asked to put up some netting. I have done that. And I don't think there'll be any more problems with the basketballs. I was also asked to have a hard cutoff with music at 10 o'clock, which we will implement. Right now we're not advertising the short-term rental. I wasn't aware originally that I needed a short-term use permit to operate the property. So, I've been going through this process since then. But the property is now rented. Right. In addition to the 10 o'clock cutoff time on music, all of the lights, we put in timers and the lights will also shut off outside in the backyard, which is where people tend to gather because there's a pool and a basketball court back there. And so I've turned off the lights now at 10 o'clock as well. That wasn't recommended, but I added that. And we've also put in place a lot of different language so that our guests are reminded, I think 4 different times now before they come to the property that parties are strictly prohibited and or loud music as well. We are asking each guest, we're reminding them that this is a residential neighborhood, that there are children around, and to please be respectful of the neighbors with regards to volume of music choices, and just, in general, just, be respectful of the neighbors. In addition to that, I've installed security cameras on the front of the house and on the rear of the house. These are hardwired cameras that are wired hot, which means that they are on all the time. So it's 24-hour surveillance, and that goes directly to my phone. So if there's people there, I get notifications. Someone shows up. I have the ability to view the property at all times. I just want to state that, we're honestly trying to run this as a real business. I'm a business owner in Kansas. I have been for 15 years. I run 2 businesses, and we're really trying to do a good job here. We really want to be the model of what a good short-term rental should be, as opposed to all these horror stories that we hear on the news. That said, for the most part, I think we've done a pretty good job. I know there have been some, a couple things. I don't think the police have been called or anything, and to my knowledge, there haven't been any large parties, and we have been strictly against that from the very beginning. As mentioned at the initial meeting, We've also, we require a 3-night rental that, you know, I hope will prevent against people having large parties. And we also do not allow local groups, which I think will all but, you know, eliminate the possibility of people inviting over their friends and family members from here locally. You know, all of our guests are families that are typically traveling into Kansas City from out of town. So respectfully, I mean, we are really trying to do everything possible we can to do this right. And, you know, we respectfully ask for your support for at least the next year so we can make this thing go. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. Ask the clerk if any notifications are received from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of this item.
No notifications were received, sir.
Is there anyone present in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none.
Is there anyone joining us virtually, clerk, who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none as well.
Clerk, have you received any notifications from the public who wish to express comments in opposition of the item?
No notices were received.
Is there anyone present who would like to speak in opposition of this item?
Seeing none.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who would like to speak in opposition of this item?
Seeing none as well.
I will now close the public hearing. Petitioner, you can make closing comments if you'd like. Comments. You can make closing comments if you'd like, petitioner. Petitioner, sir.
Oh,
Yes.
no, thank you.
Okay. All right. Members of the commissions with questions, we have one from Commissioner Markley.
Thanks, Mayor. How many of the improvements that you spoke to us about tonight are the neighbors that were in opposition aware of? I'm just not sure what the timeline was of when some of those things that you said you didn't have to do, but you've chosen to do happen.
I personally spoke to the main neighbor that was in opposition is directly in behind me. And I personally went to him and apologized to him. The problem there was some individuals that came at the draft and his wife were sitting outside and they were hooting and hollering at her. So that's what he said. And I mean, I'm appalled by that. I told him that I apologized profusely. His wife was on the phone the day before and I tried to apologize to her directly. That is absolutely not what we're looking for, you know, with regards to the people that we stay at our home. He mentioned to me that that was the only, you know, main issue. He does have my contact information now. And I did tell him about the other things that we're doing. He's not the same neighbor about the basketballs. The basketballs is on the kind of, the yard comes to a corner in the back. And so one's on one corner, one's on the other. But in my letter to all the neighbors, I provided numerous ways of getting a hold of me and I'm available via text, cell phone. I live 10 minutes away. I'm not 4 blocks, but I do have the cameras on and I will be there very, very quickly. I'm there all the time anyway. I mean, I take meticulously good care of the property. I'm pretty OCD about it. It's a family home. My dad built the house. I grew up in that house. And you know, the neighborhood means a lot to me. Kansas City, Kansas means a lot to me. And you know, I want to keep it and keep it going.
I guess what I'm trying to determine is when this past week I did, and I think several other commissioners did as well, get contact from the neighborhood group and some neighbors in a different neighborhood group about this property. And what I'm trying to determine is whether they were aware of some of these additional measures you've taken in terms of the security cameras and those sorts of things. That's why I'm trying to.
I don't know. I don't know the neighborhood group. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if they were the same, the Turner group that had objected originally. It is my plan to try to join some of those groups if they're available to join. And so I can be part of the community and find out what's going on and be a part of that. So, you know, I welcome an invitation if you know, any of those groups would have me, I'd like to join. But no, I mean, in answer to your question, I'm not aware of even who they are. So I can't answer the question.
But those items that you discussed here tonight weren't discussed at the planning commission, so they wouldn't have been a part of that record. Gunnar, you see where I'm going with this?
They were recommended. The netting was recommended. Yes. The music cutoff was recommended as well. I did let everybody know that I had already purchased cameras at the planning commission, but I had not installed them. Now they are installed. So that's
Yeah, if you, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Design, if you look at the conditions of approval, 24 and 25 were added as it relates to the conversation at the City Planning Commission. And I would also note that Ms. Barb Kill is on the call right now. Sorry, who is the head of the Turner Neighbors?
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend?
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering, Mr. James, what would be your policy procedure on allowing people who had been a nuisance or on which the police had been called one time if they wanted to come back to you?
Absolutely not. No, we have a way of reviewing people online as well. And I'm in fact looking into going back and re-reviewing my VRBO guests. I'm not sure that I'm allowed to do that. Because I've provided a good review to that one person who stayed there. But I was not aware that that had happened with the neighbors. So no, absolutely not. That would never happen. If-
Is that up to you or is that up to?
It's up
the
to
other-
me.
Okay.
Yeah, we use, we're, the only site that we go through is the Verbo site. And we can approve or disapprove every single guest that requests, a booking. And so it's there's a lot of communication that can happen there. And in fact, we go above and beyond and try to do a good job of communicating with all of our guests so they are aware of all of our rules and regulations and everything else that, not only from the standpoint of the neighborhood, noise and parties, but also just taking a good care of our home. So we try to do a good job of communicating via text and also email before and during and then after the stay.
So are you keeping a list then of guests who've rented on which complaints have been submitted?
I mean, quite honestly, I don't have a list. I don't have any complaints other than the one,
Well,
the
that's
one
the one.
complaint. But yes, I absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Markland.
Thanks, Mayor. So we have a bit of a complication here tonight because we don't have 8 commissioners. And as you may recall, for the petitioner and the clerk read our options are limited on what we can do with any item that comes before us tonight because we don't have any, and we don't have our full contingent of commissioners. My inclination was, after discussions with the neighborhood groups, to head a direction that wouldn't necessarily be favorable. But it sounds like you're doing a lot of good things. What I'm inclined to do is hold this over till next month, ask you to regroup with the neighborhood groups, make sure they're aware of all the things that you're doing, meet those people, and then come back next month where I hope we won't have anybody who's contacted us in opposition. And then that makes for a much cleaner situation, I think, for your neighborhood relationships and for our situation. So I would like to make a motion to hold this over until the next planning commission meeting.
Second.
Or till our next planning meeting, let me be clear, not till your planning commission, till our next meeting.
Second.
Stand by just a second. All right. There's a motion and a second to hold this over. For clarity, Commissioner, for how long? Okay, so the motion is for it to hold over until the next commission meeting, and the second reflects that as well? The next. The next full, okay. And the
Could
second
I-
reflects that as well?
Could I just clarify with regards to that?
Sir,
What,
Unfortunately,
Oh,
your time to speak.
I'm
is-
sorry.
Oh, thank you. There's a motion and a second. Clerk, roll call, please. I'm sorry, Commissioner Stikes. Yes.
I'm just curious with regards to the neighborhood meeting and going there, I'm perfectly willing to do that. What would be the expectation of me in doing that? Am I expected to convince those folks that?
Here's what I think that was expressed, is that you just say the things that you did in over and beyond, above and beyond what you number 24, number 25, because I think you said you installed additional lighting that's going to shut off at a certain time, right? They weren't aware of that.
Okay.
Just make those aware. I don't know. Maybe you could look and find out if you can join one of those groups that you were saying that you were interested in between now and then. I don't know. That's up to you. Those types of things,
Okay.
right?
Could I receive at least who those groups are?
I'm sure
Yeah.
that Director Hand will help you with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there is a motion and I believe a second for this to be held over to the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley,
Aye.
Stites, Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan. Aye. 7-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting.
Thank you.
We will now move to the regular portion of our agenda, which takes us to the mayor's agenda. Item number one is the Mayor's World Cup Readiness Task Force. The Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce has been making its rounds, kind of updating local municipalities on the value and the benefits, as well as some of the challenges that may be presented to our communities from the World Cup, which is coming to the Kansas City Metro in 2026. As a result, I've set up a Mayor's World Cup Readiness Task Force, which is chaired by our Visit KCK Executive Director, Alan Carr, and co-chaired by our Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, Administrator David Johnston. And I'll have Mr. Carr come forward and make a presentation on just his vision and the importance of this task force.
Hello, Mayor, Commissioners, County Administrator, Alan Carr. I'm Executive Director for Visit Kansas City, Kansas. I want to thank you, Mayor, for putting this task force together. We have a huge opportunity in front of us here in Wyandotte County and in the Kansas City metro area with the World Cup coming up in 2026. It's 3 years away. In fact, on this night, 3 years from now, we will be in the middle of the World Cup. We'll likely have hosted matches already here in Kansas City and welcome visitors from around the world. And so I'm excited to work with the county administrator to make sure that we can take maximum opportunity here in Wyandotte County of this event. It is the single biggest single sports event in the world, likely one of the biggest events we can ever host here in the Kansas City metropolitan area. There's a lot of work still to be done with the local organizing committee. The county administrator is the unified government's official representative to that group. There's still a lot of decisions that FIFA has to make. We don't yet know how many matches, for example, will take place here in the metro area. It's estimated it will be somewhere between 7 and 9 matches that will take place at Arrowhead Stadium. We don't know what sites will be used as training facilities or what sites will be used as base camps. These would be the places where those 48 teams from around the world will use to train in advance and during the World Cup. And those sites will be meccas for the fans of those teams who will travel to those cities to spend up to 37 days, the duration of the Cup here in the United States and potentially here in Kansas City. What we do know is that Wyandotte County is very well positioned to be a big part of this event. We have two of the premier soccer facilities in the metro and quite frankly, in the United States. And we think it's likely that both of those facilities will be part of the World Cup and FIFA's plans. Children's Mercy Park likely has the potential to be a training site for the teams playing their matches here in Kansas City. And Compass Minerals National Performance Center has a great opportunity to be a base camp for one of those teams to train for the duration of the World Cup. It is a facility unlike few, or they may even say any, in the United States. And so there is a great opportunity to potentially attract one of the major clubs. Just as an example, in the last World Cup in Qatar, Argentina, which is one of the powers in the soccer world, it's estimated that between 15 and 20,000 fans from Argentina went to Qatar and spent approximately a month there, following their team around during the World Cup. Imagine if we have a team based here in Kansas City, Kansas, the opportunity that we have. So I'm excited to work with the county administrator to put together this task force. We're just in the starting stages, so we'll be organizing. But I know that there are two big picture tasks in front of us with this. The first is support the needs of FIFA and the Kansas City 2026 Organizing Committee to make sure that we as a county and as a city are ready for everything that they'll need from us in 2026, from transportation to security to looking at employment opportunities for the residents here in Wyandotte County. And so I'm excited to work with the county administrator who sits on that body to look at what we can do to support those needs. The other thing I think is just equally important, and that's how do we showcase Wyandotte County to the world during this event? And I think that is one of the major opportunities standing in front of us. How can we get visitors to come to every corner of our county, enjoy our attractions, our restaurant, our culture, our history? And so that is also, I think, one of the major focuses that we'll be looking at. How can we showcase Wyandotte County to the world and make sure that a lot of fans are here? So thank you for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to the work ahead.
Thank you. Any questions from our commission? I have a question. I know we talked about all the benefits. What are some of the challenges that would really this task force could really deep dive into when you talk about these many people coming, not just to the KC Metro, but may end up here in Wyandotte County? And I went to that meeting and just a lot of things come to mind, everything from infrastructure to lodging to restaurants to, I mean, you can name just about everything that the unified government has some type of hand in, maybe impacted and proposed challenges, not just to the unified government and some of our business stakeholders, but also to our residents. What does that look like to you?
Absolutely. You know, I think this event will touch every aspect and every corner of our community. So, you know, making sure that we're ready to get people around that infrastructure, that we have the capacity to do that. You know, taking maximum advantage of getting those visitors here. There will likely be more demand for hotels than there are rooms. And so those are things that we'll be looking at. I know that they're already looking up to a 2-hour radius outside of our metro area for hotel rooms. And so, you know, there's a lot of opportunity with that, but that can also put a strain on things. We know that we have a shortage of rental housing and affordable rental housing. And there's a potential that you could see prices go up during the World Cup as people take advantage of all of those people looking for those opportunities. So, you know, I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this, and we want to make sure that we're ready and that we're doing everything we can to address all of those needs and issues.
Commissioner Townsend has a question.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Carr. You mentioned that with Qatar, that was a month for the actual games, I don't recall, or that took into account for a month of training, the preparation. And do you have any idea if 2 years, that'll be pretty much the same here, the length of time that they'd be engaged here?
Yeah, so 37 days is the magic number they're giving us. That's the time from when the first match happens to the final match. Now, not all of those matches will take place here. But we also know that those teams will come in to train. So we are looking at approximately a 30-day window where we expect to see visitation impacts in our metropolitan area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carr. Appreciate you. That takes us to items 2 and 3 on the mayor's agenda, which are proclamations. If the clerk could read those in summary.
Good evening. Thank you, sir. Proclamation Juneteenth Freedom Day. Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2023 as Juneteenth Freedom Day in Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, and urge all citizens to recognize the importance of Juneteenth. A witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and the seal of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Proclamation. Now therefore, I, Tyrone Garner, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim that July is recognized as Park and Recreation Month, and that Wednesday, July 12th, 2023 will be a free swim day at Parkwood Pool, 950 Quindaro Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any questions, comments in reference to the proclamations? Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. Another plug for Parkwood Pool. Things are going well so far. Daily admission is only $1. We've kept it at that rate for any number of years. And again, on Wednesday, July 12th, as the mayor's proclamation states, it'll be free swim day. Want to give Parkwood Pool and everyone there another plug.
Thank you, Commissioner Townsend. Clerk, legal, did you have something you wanted to comment? No? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. That takes us to our next item on the agenda, which is the regular consent agenda. And does any member of the commission or administrator wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items of the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote. And if you'll remember the regular consent agenda, we had the removal of item number 1. So that leaves item number 2. Item number 3. No comments? I'd entertain a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Clerk, please call roll.
Thank you, sir. Roll call. Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Stites. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Vote is 7-0. That motion carries.
Thank you, clerk. Next, we have our standing committee agenda. Item number 1. Approval.
Sir, we do have the public hearing agenda first.
I'm sorry. We have a public hearing. 2.
I'll read that real quick, Mayor. Item number 1 on the public hearing agenda tonight. The first one, public hearing for Margaritaville Homefield Outdoor Project added per blue sheet. Public hearing regarding the proposed issuance of industrial revenue bonds for the Margaritaville Homeland Outdoor Project.
Stand by just a second. We'll take a 5-minute recess. We just have to get some additional information. So Rick will convene back at exactly 7:15. 55. All right, if that time has arrived, I want to thank everybody for their patience as we took a short recess. So we have two items under the public hearing agenda. These items were added per blue sheet. Item number one, public hearing resolution Margaritaville Homefield Outdoor Project. A public hearing and approval of a resolution regarding the proposed issuance of industrial revenue bonds for the Margaritaville Homefield Outdoor Project submitted by Angela Lawson, Acting Chief Legal Counsel. It is our first item and is regarding the proposed issuance of industrial revenue bonds to finance the cost of acquiring, constructing, improving, and equipping a 229-room themed hotel and outdoor multi-use recreational venue and related facilities located approximately to the northeast of State Avenue and North 94th Street. I'll ask our Chief Legal Counsel, Angela Lawson, to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mayor. I would invite Kevin Wimpy from Gilmore and Bell, our bond counsel, to come forward. The next two items will follow the same format as you stated. There will be a public hearing on each, and then we will ask for an approval of a resolution for each one regarding proposed issuance of industrial revenue bonds. And Mr. Wimpy will provide additional information.
Right, thank you. Yeah, good evening. I'm Kevin Wimpy with Gilmore and Bell, bond counsel to the unified government. As Ms. Lawson stated, I'll just cover the next two items together as they're related. And hopefully it looks both familiar in substance and appearance. With Mr. Todd LaSalle's permission, I've even recycled some of the slides you saw when the development agreement came before you earlier this month. So I do think I have a short presentation teed up. To cut to the chase, the reason we're back here tonight with a couple of familiar items is that you'll recall from the standing committee meeting earlier this month, the items were fast tracked to your first meeting in June for consideration of an amended development agreement. However, the industrial revenue bond items require public notice and to occur at least a week before the meeting. And because it was fast tracked, we weren't able to do those publications in time. That publication and public notice process has been completed. And so we're here tonight to complete the process prescribed by the IRB statutes related to IRBs for both home field baseball, amending that pilot schedule, and also the Margaritaville home field outdoor IRBs. So this is just to introduce and reorient ourselves here. Familiar map, obviously, but to the east is the home field baseball complex at issue tonight, and also in the central yellow area is the Margaritaville Hotel. This slide displays the brief history related to IRB items here. So you'll recall the original amendment, the original development agreement and a couple of IRB actions from last spring. And then in the last several months, we've been discussing an amended development agreement, one of the components being amending the pilot schedule for the baseball project, and also agreeing to a pilot schedule for the Margaritaville home field outdoor. And again, that was approved at your first meeting this month, and then we're back tonight to finish the statutory process after completing notice and publication of that notice relating to the IRB items. The last two slides I have here should look familiar. Again, this is just the comprehensive list of payments in lieu of tax related to the IRB issuances for the three components that were contained in the development agreement. First being the home field building, which is unchanged, and there's no action item for you here tonight. Middle column's home field baseball. And again, this is reduced by 80% what was originally agreed to. Because if you'll recall, there were originally 10 fields and it's now reduced to 8 at the baseball site. And then finally, the right column is for the hotel, Margaritaville, and home field outdoor. And that's a new pilot schedule agreed to in the development agreement. Finally, pursuant to state statute, a third-party feasibility consultant was engaged to do a cost-benefit analysis, and the summary results of those are displayed here, showing effects, projected effects on other taxing jurisdictions. So that concludes sort of the prepared informational items. And again, tonight you have both a public hearing for consideration of the home field baseball resolution of intent, and then second, a public hearing on the Margaritaville home field outdoor project, followed by consideration of that resolution. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing and ask the clerk if you received any notifications from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of this item.
No notifications were received.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none.
Is there anyone joining us here in the chambers who would like to speak in favor of this item?
Seeing none, sir.
Clerk, have you received any notification from the public who wish to express comments in opposition to this item?
No notifications were received, sir.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in opposition? of this
Seeing
item?
none.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us? Correction, is there anyone joining us in the chambers here tonight who would like to speak in opposition of this item?
Seeing none as well.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments?
Move for approval for item 1.
Second.
Right, a motion and a second has been moved. I recognize that. And is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
States. Burrows. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Put a 7-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. Takes us to the item number 2, which is public hearing resolution, home field baseball amendment. A public hearing and approval of a resolution regarding the proposed issuance of industrial revenue bonds for the home field baseball amendment submitted by Chief Counsel Angela Lawson. It is our last item regarding the proposed issuance of industrial revenue bonds to finance the cost of acquiring, constructing, installing, and equipping a multi-sport athletic complex, including baseball and other outdoor facilities located approximately to the north of State Avenue and North 90th Street. I'll ask our Chief Legal Counsel, Ms. Lawson, to make the opening remarks.
Yes, this is the same information that Mr. Wimpy provided before. Just a different bond. I'd asked him to come forward, but we would ask that you open a public hearing on this matter, and at the close of the hearing, that we would ask for approval of the resolution to issue industrial revenue bonds.
Okay. Presentation has been made. I will now open the public hearing and ask the clerk if you've received any notification from the public who wish to express comments in favor of the item.
No notifications were received.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in favor of the item?
Seeing none.
Is there anyone joining us in this chambers who'd like to speak in favor of the item?
Seeing none as well.
Clerk, have you received any notification from the public who wish to express comments in opposition to the item?
No notifications were received, sir.
Clerk, is there anyone joining us virtually who'd like to speak in opposition to the item?
Seeing none.
Is there anyone in this chamber who would like to speak in opposition of this item?
Seeing none as well.
I will close the public hearing. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments?
Second.
I recognize that there has been a motion and a second for approval. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
States. Burrows. Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Vote of 7-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. This takes us to the standing committee's agenda. The first item is the Edwardsville Wholesale Wastewater Rate Agreement. It is the first item under this agenda. Is the approval of an agreement with the city of Edwardsville, Kansas, for a new and updated 5-year agreement that would align rates with Kansas City, Kansas taxpayers. This item was fast-tracked from the Public Works and Safety Standing Committee on Monday, June 26, 2023, which was chaired by Commissioner Bynum. Commissioner Bynum is absent this evening, so I'll ask Jeff Fisher, who is the Director of Public Works, to make comments and remarks in regards to this item.
Good evening. I'm gonna hand this over to Jeff Miles because he's the one that really spearheaded this. I met with the Edwardsville Council, so I'm gonna let him speak to this and then we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Good evening, Commissioner, Mayor. Just a little bit of background. We do, I'm sure you guys are aware, we take the wastewater from Edwardsville and treat it at Plant 20. We operated on our 5-year agreement that expired January 1st, beginning of this year. I worked very closely with Michael Webb, their city manager, and we hired Black and Beach to do a rate study to look at total cost, not only treating per gallon, but as well as our fixed rates. We did present in front of their commission council on June 12th, got unanimous approval, and we're looking for approval tonight to move forward to the next 5 years.
Markley, move to approve.
Okay. Before we get to recognizing the motion, do any members of the commission have any comments or questions? Seeing none, I recognize that there was a motion to approve it. There is a second. Any further discussion? Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
States, Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
7-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. That takes us to our item number 2, which is a human resources guide update. It is the last item under this agenda. It is a request for approval of updates to the human resource guide due to recent new federal regulations by the Department of Labor. This item was fast tracked from the Administration and Human Services Standing Committee meeting on Monday, June 26, 2023, chaired by Commissioner Markley. I'll ask Commissioner Markley to make some opening remarks.
Thanks, Mayor. This item was unanimously approved. It is only on non-consent because it was fast-tracked. It just brings us in line with federal regulations, which of course is the minimum we should be doing for our pregnant women and mothers here at the unified government. With that, I would move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Markley. Before I recognize those motions for approval, do any members of the commission have any comments or questions? Seeing none, there is a motion and a second for approval. Clerk, roll call.
Roll call, Johnson.
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
States, Burrows,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
7-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. That takes us to the administrator's agenda. It is a resolution exceeding the revenue neutral rate. It is the one item under the Administrator General, which is the approval of a resolution regarding this governing body's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate and setting the date for the required public hearing. I'll ask our county administrator, Mr. Johnston, to lead the conversation relative to this item.
Yeah, having such a item for your consideration is a requirement by state law, and we have Debbie Johnson, our interim CFO, here to present this item. Debbie?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. As was stated, the resolution is the intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate and set the date for a public hearing. Per the state of Kansas requirements, all taxing entities must notify the county clerk by July 20th of its intent to either remain neutral or exceed the revenue neutral rate. If an entity intends to exceed the revenue neutral rate, it must hold a public hearing between the dates of August 20th and September 20th, and then submit all their budgets to the county clerk by October 1st. The resolution coming forward was based on input that we've received from the budget workshops over the past couple of months. And so it states our intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate, and it also sets the maximum mill levy at the current rate. And I did just want to note that for the city of Kansas City, Kansas, the current rate is 38.476593 mills. And the rate for Wyandotte County is 37.328383 mills. Once the rate is submitted to the clerk, you will only be able to lower that rate for the budget. It will not be able to be increased. And also within the resolution is the date of the public hearing, which is August 28th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Markley, move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Roll call, Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley,
Aye.
States,
No.
Burrows,
No.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
That is 6-1. 5-2. We need the mayor to vote.
No.
5-3, that motion fails.
Okay. That takes us to,
We have to, by state law, make something happen, right?
I think we have dates. Oh, Ms. John, can you please come back? Motion has failed. Can you restate the state law on our statutory obligations as far as decision making?
We have to notify the county clerk by July 20th of our intent to either
remain neutral or exceed the revenue neutral rate. We do have to file that. I think if we choose to file, and I'll kind of turn to the clerk, if we were to choose not to file, that would, I would think would mean we were going revenue neutral.
That is true, Debbie. If you do not choose to exceed, then you make a declaration basically to remain neutral.
And this would not prohibit you from remaining neutral at a later date. You could still.
That's correct.
You
This
could
is,
still
this
ratchet it
resolution
down.
would set the maximum rate at the current rate, and you would have the ability to lower it, but you would not have the ability to raise it. But you could still lower it during the remaining budget process.
And I believe it changes the budget schedule as well, if you don't.
Yes, if you do not exceed the revenue neutral, then you're on the previously, the previous schedule.
And that is correct. If you do not exceed, you remain neutral. You have to have your budget certified by August 25th.
Okay. The motion has failed. Stand by. All right. There was that item failed. And so we are going to move on. I think we know the outcome of that. And our next item on our agenda, that item failed, and there are no questions in regards to that item. I'm not going to entertain any more questions on that matter. It failed. We have one more item on the agenda.
Mayor,
Well, I did. And
We had the right to talk and intermingle what's going on. Since that motion failed, we can make another motion. Legal, am I right or wrong?
it- the item,
question. I have a question.
I'm not going to entertain any more questions on this matter.
Mayor, this subject though has not, I'm not making a motion. I think we do have a right to ask a question about the procedure and the impact of what just happened as a legal matter. I'm asking, I would ask for a ruling on that.
The
I'm not
questions,
asking about a motion, but I am asking about the impact of what happened.
I think that our finance director gave that and the
Well, I'd like
options.
to hear it again. That's, that's what I'm asking about.
I will allow our finance director to repeat.
Debbie Johnson, interim CFO. Yes, if you do not, if we do not submit to the clerk of our intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate, we would be, we would then by default be not exceeding going with revenue neutral. So we would not exceed the revenue neutral rate if we do not submit to the clerk that we intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
And is there a deadline, or what is the deadline by which we have to make that declaration? To-
July
who did you
20th.
Say the
July 20th.
July 20th.
Yes.
And it also moves it moves the other deadlines up as well for filing the budget.
Right. The budget would be due, if you exceed the revenue neutral rate, the budget is due October 1st. If you do not exceed the revenue neutral rate, the budget is due to the clerk August 25th.
Okay, so, but the next deadline of importance is July 20th.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That motion failed, and that's going to take us to our next item on the agenda, which is the commissioner's agenda.
I do have another
Commissioner-
question about the process though, Mayor. We're gonna have to deal with it.
Yes.
We're still gonna have to deal with it. I mean, we have until July 20th, from what I understand. Okay, so,
I believe either way, I think it was announced by the clerk and our budget director, if we do not make notification, we are at revenue neutral. I think that answers that question. So,
but we haven't, but we haven't,
the item was voted on. I cast a deciding vote. It failed. We are.
We have the opportunity to
Nope.
resend the vote and vote on something else, so we don't have to wait until, we could do it July 13th instead of waiting until the 20th. I don't know how you say you can just stop this all of a sudden when we're all elected to represent the people and we want to do what's right. And if we wait till the 20th, if we do it on the 13th, we can, if we have questions, staff can get them back to us before the 20th. But if we wait till the 20th, we're pushing the envelope. That's all I'm saying, Mayor.
Our administrators assured us that we can make that window. I'm not going to entertain any more conversation in this matter. There was a vote. It failed. As part of this agenda, we're going to stick to it and we're going to move on to the next item. And that is item number 1, Commissioner's agenda recommendations, disbursements of the 2023 casino grant funds. This is one item under the Commissioner's agenda, which is the approval of the annual disbursement.
Mayor, I want to rescind my former motion. Who was my second?
You're out of order. I've already moved on and I'm not recognizing that. So
Legal, can that happen?
you are out of order. I'm not recognizing that. I have moved on.
I believe that the person who made the motion can rescind the motion, as long as the second does as well.
I rescind my motion. Tell us who the second was, clerk.
Yes, it was Commissioner McKiernan.
I rescind my second.
I'm going to take a recess. I do believe that violates the rules. So, and I'll have to get the ordinance to validate that. We're going to take a 10-minute recess. We will convene back at 8:30. All right, we are back. Thank you. I believe we have clarity. We had to get a little clarity. Thank you for your patience, and I'll let the Chief Legal Counsel read the corresponding ordinance for clarity.
Yes, it is actually, the appropriate action would be a motion for reconsideration, and that is on the previous motion. Shall be in order, providing such motion to reconsider is made by a member of the side prevailing on vote of the original motion. So that would be a member that voted no, providing that any member may second a motion to reconsider shall be made during the same meeting that the original motion. So that means that the person who makes this motion to reconsideration would have to be a no vote, but any member present could could second it. And then this could only be attempted once during this meeting.
Just some clarification, if I may, prevailing side makes the motion, but I believe the motion is debatable.
It's a motions to reconsider are not debatable.
Well, the motion to reconsider is one, but once that has prevailed, there's point for discussion. We can go right back into debate discussion.
Oh, once it's been.
Once it's been reconsidered,
Right,
we can go into
Oh.
debate and discussion, if I remember correctly.
correct.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I was finished.
All right, we have clarity. The motion to reconsider would be the correct motion, and that would have to come from one of the commissioners that voted no, which would either be, I believe it was Commissioner Stites or Commissioner Burrows. I will entertain that motion to reconsider.
Okay, got my, okay.
Commissioner
So,
Stites.
so I'm gonna I'm gonna make a motion. But with 1/3, nearly 1/3 of our commission not here tonight. The reason that I wanted this to go on to the 13th is so that we have a full commission to have a discussion about a very important item, which is our budget. So based on new information, I make a motion to reconsider and move it on to the July 13th commission meeting.
Markley, second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Burrows,
No.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
6-1, that motion carries.
Clerk, let the record reflect a veto this item from the office of the mayor.
Move to override the veto.
Markley, second.
There is a motion and a second to override my veto. Clerk roll call.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Burrows,
How much time do I have, Mayor, before I have to make my decision? Do you have a set time frame?
We don't have all night.
I do respect the fact that we need the other commissioners here. That to give them an opportunity to be heard on this subject matter, although they have been heard on this subject matter. I'll vote aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
7-0, that overrides.
Thank you. That now takes us to our next item, which is the commissioner's agenda. Item number 1, recommendations, disbursements of the 2023 casino grant funds. It's one item under the commissioner's agenda, which is the approval of the annual disbursements of the 2023 Unified Government Hollywood Casino Grant Funds. I'll ask our county administrator, Mr. Johnson, to present the item. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an item that comes before this commission every year, and the way I understand it, the distribution is made the involvement of all the commission, and so there is a list of potential grantees that have been submitted by the commissioners, mayor, and look for your discussion and review, approval, or whatever.
Thank you, Administrator. Are there any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Burrows.
Mayor, Commissioner Burrows, move for approval.
Kieran, second.
I believe we have a question from Commissioner Stites.
Not so much a question, just a quick statement. You know, I think this year it was $42,187, right? And I don't know if you added up all of the applicants that came in. There are so many of them out there in need. And I wish that we each had $420,000 to give out, right? And it's tough to make that. But I'm glad that I was able in my community to pass out those dollars to the very needy 501c3s that do very good work with this money. And I look forward to it. Last year, I looked forward to it for this year, and I look forward to giving it out next year. I hope it's more money. So thank you. And that's all.
Thank you. I believe there's a motion and a second to approve. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk roll call.
Roll call Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
States. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
7-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the portion, the regular portion of our regular meeting of the commission, and I'm going to adjourn us in that capacity. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn us as the Board of Commission and call us back to order as the Land Bank Board of Trustees. Clerk roll call. Or do I have a motion?
Need two motions, sir.
Markley, I so move.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Clerk roll.
Roll call Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
States. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
We are reconvened as Land Bank.
All right. Do any members of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any item on the land bank consent agenda?
McKiernan, move to approve all as submitted.
Markley,
right.
second.
I will recognize those motions to approve. Any further discussion? Clerk roll call.
Roll call Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Commissioner Markley.
Aye.
States. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Kiernan.
Aye.
7-0, that motion carries.
Thank you. There is no further business tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Markley, move to adjourn.
McKiernan, second.
There's a motion and a second. Clerk roll call.
Roll call Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
States.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
7-0, we're adjourned.
Thank you. And I'd like to wish the public a safe and happy 4th of July coming forward in the week ahead. Thank you. We are adjourned.